So welcome everyone back to the second day of Intersect. I'd like to begin by acknowledging the Wurundjeri Wurrung peoples of the Eastern Kulin Nation, traditional custodians of the land on which we are meeting today, and pay my respects to their elders past and present. And I extend that respect to Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people here today. So for our first session today, we'll be talking about financial wellness, the SMART strategy. For the last 4 years, Purposeled, ASX-listed FinTech Wisr has been building a financial wellness platform that challenges the traditional models of finance. Join Dr Lili Sussman now as she explores how Wisr's purpose to improve the financial well-being of Australians is driving Wisr's strategy, including the development of new commercial models and horizons. Thanks, Lili.
Thanks, Rachel. Hey, guys. It is so bright and early. I am so impressed to see all of you here, especially knowing some of you had a fun night last night. So I thank you all for being here. I am, as Rachel said, Lili. I'm the Chief Strategy Officer at Wisr. I'm super pumped to be able to talk to you today because I'm actually talking about one of my favorite things to talk about in the world, which is around living well and spending time working on something that has personal meaning outside of scarcity, outside of ego, something that inspires me, something that inspires the team at Wisr, and something that has moral value. I'm talking about working for a purpose-led company. And conscious capitalism is something that I really want to see come alive in the world. And I really think we all deserve to live a purposeful life, and I think these two things are very connected. So I want to share a little bit with you today about how Wisr thinks about this, what we do, how we make it come alive, and how we make it real for us. And I think the best way to start diving into this, actually, is to just give a quick intro of what we do, who we are, and then let's start talking about a customer story. So Wisr is a ASX-listed FinTech. We've been around for about 4 years. And we are a purpose-led lending business, and we've also built various financial wellness solutions that accompany the lending business so that a customer has a lot of tools at their disposal to reinvent and experience credit differently. And we care about financial wellness and are very responsible with our lending, and we want to help people out by evening the playing field between lenders and borrowers. We help people understand what credit is, what's good versus bad credit, how to understand a credit score and the credit profiles, how lenders see borrowers. And in addition to that education, we also have built an app that specifically helps people pay down their debt, which of course means less margin and profit for us, but is the right thing to do, and we think is a differentiated value proposition. And so the combination of lending with financial wellness solutions that help people feel differently about the credit that they need and of course get a fairer deal, that's what we've been about. And so let me start with a story. So this is a real story. Charles, he is a bus driver in Queensland, and a couple of years ago he got into a bit of trouble. He had to take out a loan for his car, and his car broke down repeatedly, and on his wages, he was kind of struggling to get his car fixed, and he ended up with a bunch of debt, and he wasn't very educated about different types of credit, so he ended up with not only a bank loan, but some payday loans, some high-interest credit card debt, and he sort of entered the pandemic with about $60,000 in high-interest debt. And of course, when the pandemic hit, he got this call, right? And he got his call from the network operator to say, hey, the networks are, a lot of them are not running for a while, and we're going to have to reduce your hours. So Charles started not sleeping at night. He described trying to deal with his debts as monsters under the bed that kept him from sleeping, and had a real insomnia problem, which, as we all know, especially any of us who has kids, insomnia will take away your health. And it's a really tough spot for him to be in. And when the government announced the super early access scheme, he took out $10,000 from his super, and he paid off kind of the tip top of that debt. And he was left with $50,000 in debt. And so he called Wisr, and we worked with him, and nobody else would work with him. And we worked with him, and we gave him a debt consolidation loan. And we took all of that high interest rate debt and turned it into one low interest, affordable debt that was stable. And it completely changed his life. He was Charles had not taken off Christmas in 11 years, and he was eating beans on toast. He was frying a potato left, right, and center, and, trying to be as responsible as he could. He was not a spendthrift. He was just in a pickle because he had accessed some bad debt and wasn't very educated about types of credit. And so when we helped him and put him on a low interest, fair debt consolidation loan, he described it as a huge sense of relief, even a sense of euphoria that enabled him to sleep. And since then, he has had his hours resume. He's been able to save a bit more. He's even been salary sacrificing back into a super, and now he has more super than he had before he took it out, which is just an incredible, incredible success story. And it's those kind of personal stories that we deal with every single day, which, it's what we talk about at work. And it's what gives us such a feeling of like, oh my God, we're making a difference, because finance is so personal, and it's at the very bottom layer of the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? It's the security layer, as well as thriving. It's really so important. And I think at Wisr, the fact that we're purpose-led, and you'll notice I haven't said what we mean by financial wellness, right? Because it's not a simple thing. I'm not going to give you a one-line definition of what it is, because that actually is a really complicated thing that we research, we debate, we talk about, we try to bring alive through individual customer situations, and it's a case-by-case, like, human thing. And the way we think about purpose and the way that we serve customers like Charles, it actually infuses two things. At Wisr, it infuses our culture and our routines and how we recruit and bring people into the fold of Wisr culture, which I'll talk about. And it also infuses our strategy, which I'll also talk about. But I think this is an important, really important topic because, first of all, the evidence on purpose-led companies is just so clear. They grow 3 times faster than other companies. They return 2 times long-term total shareholder return, long-term TSR. And the reason why they do that is because of the mechanisms I'm going to talk about and show you how that happens at Wisr. I think, one of the things that makes purpose-led companies different is that, we used to talk about kind of just profits, and then we talked about triple bottom line and balanced scorecard and trying to balance other priorities. Purpose-led companies are very clear, saying purpose is first and profits follow. Profits will follow, as the evidence says. More profits will follow because you are purpose-led, but purpose comes first. So there's a very clear what the logic is, and as you'll see through the rest of my presentation, why that logic is and why is it that purpose is better. It's better for people, it's better for customers, it's better for the world. So, high performance and exceptional culture. This is the first way in which purpose starts really changing what you do and what your company is like. So Wisr's employee net promoter score last year was 85. So Google, Facebook, pretty well known for having great workplace cultures. Tech companies in the US, their eNPS sit around 40. So this is really world class, and it's a very conscious thing that we work on. So it starts with who it is that we hire. Because we're a purpose-led company, hiring criteria is, are you here for purpose? Why are you here? People have a lot of reasons to get a job, but are you here primarily for purpose? And if you are, why? Having that conversation means you're attracting a different kind of person, usually a kind of person with higher EQ. And by higher EQ, I mean ability to understand and manage your own emotions and lead yourself, and ability to connect with others, sense what's going on with them, and bring it up and have an open conversation. And that makes for great communication and great teamwork. So attracting a kind of person that has higher EQ, that kind of person cares about purpose. When I say purpose, I mean, what's the good they're doing in the world? Like, how are they spending their time? You know, are they leaving the world in a better place? What's their personal vision for the world through the way that they're spending their time? And so you end up with a team that has high IQ and EQ, and then you end up with better teaming. And everybody knows that great teamwork leads to great performance. And Wisr's grown consecutively for 19 quarters, quarter on quarter, which is a pretty spectacular growth record, one we're very, very proud of. We work really hard on it, and it has to do with how we team and how we communicate. And part of that is about really consciously creating a psychological safe zone. And you're really aided by having a purpose-led company when you're trying to create psychological safety. So we do things like we talk about reasons for failure. We run trainings for our leadership, whether it's senior leadership or people who are managing people for the first time, around how you think about failures and diagnose different types of failures. You know, only one kind of failure, deviation from kind of really well-defined processes through negligence, that's the only kind that's admonishable, right? Every other kind of failure is because of complexity that you couldn't really see at the beginning, or is even intentional because you're trying something new for the first time and you should be failing fast as quickly as possible. It still hurts to fail, it still feels sucky, but like understanding that of the spectrum for reasons why things didn't go well, only a very small percentage is something that you should actually punish in a way, you know? That is huge. And you have to have that open conversation. And so psychological safety is about, I think, two things. One is real tolerance for failure, genuine tolerance for it. There are no dumb questions. People routinely get up and say, this just didn't go as planned this week. Like, this sprint didn't go as planned. You know, this release didn't happen. You know, people will say that because it's a safe space to do so. And so there's a safe space, and there's the sort of learning mindset, the learning culture. And then there is the emotional safety of being yourself. And you can't do that if you are not a purpose-led company and you can't bring questions of moral value into the workplace, because people care about stuff like racism. They care about diversity. They care about equity. They care about their own interpretation of financial wellness and the source wound that was money in their household. You know, they care about the climate and how it disproportionately affects financial equity and issues of financial wellness. They care about all kinds of things. You know, we all care about stuff, and we want to see change happen in the world. And if you can't talk about that at work, if you can't bring that into work and think about how to achieve that through spending time with, you know, your team, then you can't be your full self. And if you can't be your full self, you don't have real psychological safety. So that's another way in which having a purpose-led company opens a different conversation. And then finally, you know, we don't have values on the wall. We do have very concrete behaviors, and they're about your relationship to yourself, again, as well as your relationship to your teammates. And it's about helping each other be amazing and taking responsibility and trying to stay in the learning zone and not in the performance zone. It's that, you know, raising your hand and say, I just don't know. Like, help me, I don't know. You know, no dumb questions. I didn't succeed at this. I tried, but I didn't succeed. You know, what do you think I could have done differently? And not having that defensiveness. And we were named one of AFR's best places to work just this year, just published. We came in at number 6. Again, something that we're all really proud of, but you really feel the difference. You feel the electricity, you know, when you're at Wisr. And our routines. So we have, during COVID, when everybody was working at home, we had morning calls every single day from 9 a.m. for 15 minutes, and none of those calls were about work. It was just everybody sharing what was going on in their lives, you know, the things they were doing, like people were coding to write music, people shared deeply vulnerable and important things about themselves. You know, one 6-foot-tall rugby player guy from the ops team, he ran a morning call where he talked about his personal experience of domestic violence and what it was like growing up in a household where his mom had partners who were abusive, and he did that to raise awareness, right? Because it's an issue that was important to him. And it's also connected to financial wellness, right? The number of credit applications we get where that is in the mix, like it's not a small number, you know? And being able to see that, share that, have people share their parenting struggles, like all the real things in life that have happened and that we might be all kind of together evolving and learning about, it's just incredible. It's incredible. And having those morning calls, I think they did a huge amount for building our trust and connection with each other and our connection with the purpose and building a community of people who understand that financial wellness is connected to other big things that we want to see change in the world. And so one of the things we did this year as an example of that is we became the first climate positive FinTech, which I'm excited about. Not only, this is not just about carbon offsetting, but it's also about actually, as always, change is about changing people and changing individuals. So we started with our employees. So people volunteered. We built a climate-wise army, and people started doing all kinds of things, committing to like switching to green energy providers, eating one less meat meal a week, giving lunch and learns about how to cook vegetarian. We started a worm farm. You know, we are doing composting, like just all these things. We did a clothing swap last week. Really, really fun stuff, you know, and none of this is top down. It's bottom up because, again, it's a safe space for people to bring in what they care about. And there are going to be people in your workforce who are passionate about this and the other issue in the world, right? And so I think fundamentally, you know, as a leader at Wisr, it's a huge privilege, and I always think about, like, what can I do to model vulnerability? You know, that's a challenge for leaders. Like, what can I do to be the first to say, I don't know how to do this, please help me. You know, I feel like I ought to know, but I just don't, you know. And I think that's important. That's something that we're really cognizant of, and that includes customer feedback, good and bad. You know, I shared with you a really elating story, you know, one that inspires us, but there are equally numbers where we don't get it right, you know, and that's okay. That's okay, because we're, again, in the learning zone, not in the performance zone, and we're trying to get better. So I hope that gives you a flavor of how purpose is infused into the culture and how we operate in our routines. But also, purpose really directs strategy. It makes, I mean, I'm a career strategist, and, you know, strategy innovation is my bag, and I can tell you, purpose makes strategy simple. Like, it just tells you what to do. So what we've done so far is we've built this financial wellness platform along with lending, where we've shown that people that engage with our financial wellness platform tools, their credit score goes up over time. They use our app to pay it down, and loan customers, and we've got about 400,000 customers in that platform now and scaling every day. And loan customers who use our financial wellness tools actually end up with better credit scores, right? They actually improve their financial position as a result of taking out loan from Wisr. And that is not normal for a personal lender. So it's something we are super proud of, and I think something that is a testament to what we're really trying to do. And where we're headed is that, you know, we've built a financial wellness platform along with a lending business, the model that really works. And when something works, you think about, okay, well, how can I scale this? How can I bring it to adjacent markets? What can I do to grow this model? So we've so far built the Wisr app, Wisr credit platform, the Wisr at Work experiences, and of course, underpinned by lending. We do personal loans and car loans. And on the horizon is a variety of ways to grow, which is, of course, greenfield, partner products where we introduce other people's fantastic products that we think are good for people's financial wellness to our people in our ecosystem, and strategic partnerships in different markets. And all of these give us the potential for new commercial models. We're looking at all of these things, but all with financial wellness as our purpose, and we think deeply about each and every opportunity and what it really is doing for people, and what it doesn't do, and what are the risks. And, you know, it's really a good anchoring first kind of stage gate to think about what you do. So as an example, we recently invested into a FinTech in the EU because we thought, okay, so you have a strategy where you're combining a really responsible, good lending business with financial wellness tools. and solutions, how can you replicate that really quickly in another market and get access to a bigger market, whether it's in the US or the EU or somewhere else? And so we said, well, the fastest way, and probably the smartest way, is to have a strategic partnership with another fintech that has the same purpose and in a bigger market. So that will really narrow down your search for strategic partnerships, because how many purpose-led fintechs with the same purpose but with complementary offerings are there, right? So it just shortens your strategic process. And so we ended up investing into an EU fintech named Arbor. They, like us, spent early capital, which you guys all know is scarce, but on building financial wellness tools. They started with debt repayment tools, savings tools, micro-investing, and now they want to offer loans to help people refinance credit card debt, which is a huge problem in EU, even more so than here. And so they're very complementary to us because we don't have micro-investing and savings, and we are great at debt pay down and ethical loans. So that's, I hope that gives you kind of a little bit of a window into how, if you know what your purpose is, it really simplifies a whole bunch of strategic decision making, especially when it comes to partnerships, how to grow, where to grow, what products you will not be looking at because it's not necessarily good for people's financial wellness. It helps you be really sharp about what you stand for and how you're going to grow. And I think it really resonates with customers and it really resonates with staff. And it just makes for a really incredible experience going to work every day. And that's basically what I want to wrap up with today. And if I can just leave you with one thought, it's that profits follow purpose, not the other way around. And the evidence shows that, and you'll see a really market change in how your people are. You see people come alive, and you see people interact and communicate and connect with each other in a different way. And that's really something so powerful and so rewarding. And I hope to see the next generation of fintechs rising and more purpose-led fintechs getting off the ground. And it's all in this room right here. So thanks for listening, and I think I'm over time. Yeah, if we're over time, should we take one or two questions?
Yeah, if there was one or two questions from the audience, we've got some mics going around. Feel free to pop up your hand.
Thanks. I've just got a quick question, Lily. Hi, Betsy from FoodPay. We're very big fans of what you do and very aligned about being purpose-driven. When you were selecting to become, I think you said Green Tech certified, yeah. How did you pick that in particular as the certification you wanted to go after? We're similarly considering, do we get B Corp certified? There's so many out there. Why did you pick that one?
So we partnered with a startup as well called Our Trace that helps smaller businesses and kind of medium-sized businesses learn about carbon, offset their carbon, and also engage their employees so that every individual person can go on a journey and learn about their individual things that they could do, the small things. So we chose them because they were a great partner that had tools that weren't just about like the corporate level, they're actually at the individual level. But absolutely, we're looking at B Corp and all the other, I think it's important to keep pushing. And any way of thinking about how you can be better for society is helpful. Yeah, I don't know that there's one right way, but it's a great question. Thanks. One more?
Hi, Lily. Richard Miller from Ethical Money Company. Really appreciate your presentation and can absolutely relate. Just a question about the link between purpose and performance. And what would you say to people who say that purpose isn't enough, right? The non-for-profit sector has many examples of purpose-driven organizations that aren't necessarily high performing. And I just wonder, is there something that you're doing also around how you provide feedback to people individually that links to that?
Yeah, I think that's a great question, and comes back to that learning culture that I was talking about. One part of it is being able to talk about moral purpose at work and bring your full self. The other part of it is very deliberately and consciously building that learning culture where you're held to high standards and you're safe to fail too. These two things sound like they don't go together, but they really do. They do, because you'll fail when you strive for the moon, right? So you set really high standards, But then you expect people to fail along the way, and you support them as you do it. But the standards are there. So it is how you build it into the culture and how you build it into kind of, I hate to use the word evaluation because that demotivates people, but how we look at what we do and rate ourselves and think about, where we can do better at work. Yeah, but I think it is a good point. I don't think purpose is enough. You do have to have, all the other good business practices, but I think it is a mental shift to put purpose first and to put culture first. Is that good? Great. All right, well, thank you so much, guys.
Grab mine, sorry. Do you mind if I just grab mine? No, we're good. Yeah, thank you so much, Lili. I think you've challenged us all to think about why we get up in the morning and go to work and do the things that we do.